Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Granola, my retirement forest island, and today we're working on my entrance area. As you can see, I've already set up a tiny little space here that we are ready to tear down and start rebuilding. This is the general layout that I would like to have, with a little check-in area and then a little seating area. You can see the distance that we have between resident services and the main entrance is pretty substantial, but not giant either. I feel like there is enough room to work with, so let's get right into it. So the first thing that I got into doing was taking everything down and also cutting down all of the trees. I cut down some of the trees and then I picked up some of the trees so that I would have some in my pocket for this foresty entrance. This island is a retirement forest island, so it does seem very cottagecore in a lot of its aspects, but I feel like having a specific intent for the elderly on this island is making me choose different things than I would have if I was just doing like a straight up cottagecore island. Anyways, after I had the entire area between resident services and the airport cleaned out, I started in with a little section of pathing right next to resident services, and I'm using this brick that has little flowers around it. I really love this little path, and I started to mark out where I wanted kind of a centerpiece. I wasn't sure at this point what that centerpiece exactly would be, but I was thinking this giant fountain would be nice as kind of an homage to my first island of Glenny, where I did have this giant fountain entrance. But after looking at some of the spacing and how far away my airport is on this island, and I did want to put a little water feature, I decided that this was a little bit bulky, especially because this is a forest island. Having a major fountain really has a town core aesthetic to me. I do have a lot of plans for this island in the future because I am planning on having this being my forever island. I want it to transition maybe into more of a town aesthetic, which is kind of what I lean towards naturally. But in this instance, the fountain was just too bulky, and because I knew I wanted a little river with a little bridge in there, I just knew it was going to take up way too much space. So I decided to go with something a little bit more simple. I decided to cut down this centerpiece area. I think at this point I was still trying to make the fountain work, but I just wanted to cut down the space that it was actually going to take up. But after putting the fountain in again in this smaller reworked area, I realized it just wasn't gonna pan out and I needed to go with something much smaller. So I went with the little well. I feel like this entrance has a lot of elements from my previous islands that I enjoyed. It's kind of an amalgamation of all of my previous islands. For example, just having a centerpiece close to resident services is very reminiscent of my first island. The way that I've laid out some cliff terraforming at the front of it is very reminiscent of Papagayo, my jungle core island. I put a bridge at the front, which is very much like Wabi Sabi. So all of this is just like giving me good vibes. Oh, plus the little well in general is a very like Alexandria looking item. It's got everything, and I'm really happy with how it turned out overall. I think it'll be a very long-term entrance that I'm happy with. So yeah, I just completed the pathing for this little area around the simple well, and then I got right into some water terraforming. I didn't know if I had enough room to do a diagonal bridge. I think if my resident services was a little bit more off-centered, I would have had space to do a diagonal bridge, but that's what I thought that I wanted to do at first. So I started laying out this kind of like diagonal line of terraforming, but overall I didn't really like the fact that you would be going off in a different direction and then coming back to center, so I ended up making a straight line across. And I just centered a very small amount of terraforming. I knew I only wanted a very small bridge here, like only 3 wide. So I went and got the bridge kit from Tom Nook. I went with the wooden bridge because it is completely flat across. I think that that would be the best for older people and people with wheelchairs and that kind of thing. So to make it practical for all my elderly villagers so they don't have to climb up this difficult bridge with a huge arc in it, we're going to go with this one, which is a lot more practical. And also, I really love this style of bridge. It's one that I used a lot on my first island. I just think it's so classic, and I just love how flat and simple it is. So I didn't actually place the bridge. I just tested it out to kind of see how it was going to look. And then I started in on the terraforming on either side of this little bridge area. At first, I was never planning on doing terraforming at the front of my island like this. But as I saw more island inspiration for kind of like cottage forest core, I feel like it's really cozy to start the island with just a touch of terraforming and like a single waterfall down each side into this middle section. I do end up editing these cliffs quite a bit before I get to the end, but this was kind of my first pass at setting this up, and then I just rounded out each side of this little chunk of terraforming that I had here and put in some tiny little waterfalls on either side. And then, of course, I tried out my bridge marker kit once more, and I love the way that it aligned with that little bit of custom pathing that I have up in the main square area. I think it's really cute. Also, these two little waterfalls, even though they seem like really miniature, they add a really nice amount of sound to this area. It makes it feel very relaxing when you're first coming onto the island. And I love the way that the bridge looked. We went to the next day and it was all freshly built and looking so cute. Also, the colors of it match almost perfectly with the custom designs that I've chosen for this island. So it all worked out really well. After trying to place some trees in this area, I realized that I needed slightly more terraforming on this cliff and in a different way so that I could place trees on the cliff and also below it. And after a little bit of adjustments, I was able to place a tree in a good position. And I just started laying out trees randomly. I do end up changing some of these, but I just kind of wanted to get like the forest feeling in so that I had something of a backdrop for all of these decorations that I was going to put in, just so that I would know that they work with the trees and everything, and that it would give that foresty kind of vibe. And I'm really happy with how it worked out. I didn't really do a lot of tree stunting. I do stunt that one cedar tree in the back there, but for the most part, all these trees are full-sized, and I didn't put any fruit trees or bamboo trees. I'm just keeping it really simple with hardwood and cedar trees for now. And maybe we'll throw a fruit tree area in the future, but I kind of wanted to keep it simple. I love the way that the trees start to look in like late September, October, when they all have like slightly different shades of green. It just makes me so happy. So I think that the final dream address for this version of the island will definitely be in like early October. I think that would be really cute. And continuing with some nature, I did put in quite a lot of shrubs around. I'm just using two different kinds of shrubs right now. One that's in season, which is the yellow and orange tea olives, but also using the hibiscus because they have a really nice leaf on them. It's a very dark leaf and it kind of has like some texture to it that I really like. I don't like them so much when they're in season, but when they're not in season, the hibiscus leaves are really nice and very foresty, lush feeling. So I do want to use a bunch of different kinds of bushes in this area. I also added in some plumeria a little bit later on, but this little mix, I tried to just space them out so it didn't look too repetitive. And then I did do some up on this level as well. And then, of course, we had to get into flowers, and I went really simple on the flowers. I basically did white and yellow cosmos all over the place, and then I also went in with some hyacinths in orange. And I think that that's just about it. I maybe put in a white hyacinth, but I don't think I even did that. I think it was just orange hyacinths, yellow, and white cosmos, which turned out really, really cute and matches my pathing that I'm kind of cleaning up here at the entrance. All of my paths have like little tiny flowers in it, which I feel like has a very vintage grandma aesthetic. And I'm really obsessed with it. I ended up getting a couple more different kinds of paths before the end here, and off camera adding in some plank pathing as well, but I will show all of that to you at the end. I think my favorite thing about Animal Crossing decorating is laying down the paths because you can do so much and add so much unique texture that doesn't have anything to do with items, and you don't need to like have a crazy big collection of items in order to download paths and combine them in a really cute way. So that's probably one of my favorite aspects of the game. And speaking of figuring out custom paths, I thought originally that I wanted to put down a little kind of blanket underneath this wheelchair rental slash check-in counter area. So I did lay out a blanket like this. I'm not a big fan of these blanket edges that I have. They're so big. They make all the blankets look like they have miles of fringe. So I'm probably going to change that out. But I ended up actually downloading this little circular lace rug, and I think that it's so adorable and precious. I will have all the links to, well, not links. I will have all of my custom design codes that I am using in this build in the description, of course. But this one is top tier. I absolutely love it. And I definitely want more like doily vibes over here. I want it to basically feel like my grandma's kitchen, but as an entire island. So I did go with a little covered counter and a little rotary phone with a what am I saying? Clipboard. A check-in clipboard. That's the right words. I do want to make a lot of signage for this island. I did make a flag before the end of this. You will see like my 1.0 version of the flag in the final reveal. But for now, I don't really have many custom designs that are specific to Granola. And I would like to create like a signage style for this island. Because if you go to like retirement homes or hospitals and that kind of thing, they all have like a style for their signage and their wayfinding within the area. So I'd like to have some signage that's very like granola themed, so that we have arrows of like where to go, and of course a little like wheelchair rental sign would be really cute. So yeah, that's something that I look forward to making in the future on this island. But for now, we don't have any signage at the entrance for the wheelchair rental. I did leave a little space for something like that in the future, though. And now we're just zooming through some path editing. I feel like it's good to build out the path as quickly as you can at first, and then go back and make changes as needed, because you can fuss with pathing a lot, and if you don't have it laid out, you really don't know if it's going to look good. Speaking of that, I really am not a huge fan of the way that I laid out this like long strip of pathing to the left there, so that might change in the future, but for now it's okay. And we brought back the little seating area on top of the brick pathing, and I love it with that little country fence behind. It's just very subtle, the country fence, but it adds a little something. And we started in with a little bit of lighting with that street light. I did bring in also some garden lanterns near the end, and we had to edit some bushes here so that I could add in a little tiny library over here. This could be a literal tiny library where residents exchange books that they're reading, but it also could be like, as in a hospital or a retirement home, a little area with leaflets and that kind of thing. So either way, I think I'm going to be scattering little tiny libraries all over this island because I think they are adorable and quaint, which is exactly what I want this island to be. I wasn't really thinking too much about it when I was planning this island, but I think that white is actually going to be an adorable accent all over this island. White pieces of furniture to stand out and contrast against some of the oranges and like yellows of the island and the dark wood browns. But white lace, white doilies, little mum cushions, and things like that are really going to add that delicate pop that the grandparents I've gotta love. What am I saying? Another name of the game on Granola is going to be seating areas. We gotta have a lot of seating for all of the elderly folk. They can't just be walking endlessly all around the island with no place to sit down. So when in doubt, seating area it out is what my motto's gonna be on this island. Man, I'm really losing it. It's early in the morning. I had one coffee and a yogurt before recording this voiceover, and the coffee is hitting my stomach like you would not believe. It is just, I am a shaky mess right now, but we're just doing this voiceover, and Granola is looking so cute. It's actually really funny that I've never done like cottagecore or forestcore in the whole time that this game has been out, and I've been playing since November 2020, so for a good long time. And still, I've never done something quite with this aesthetic, this very natural vibe. I feel like 1.0 was the perfect time to do a theme like this with, you know, all the DIYs that we already had there. It was super flexible and versatile with just the minimal items that we had. I mean, but with 2.0, there are a lot of cute items that we got. So anyways, I'm excited to work on this island and do this aesthetic that I have seen so much and that I love so much, but also to add my own twist with the retiree vibe, which is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm just editing the sides here of this entrance area. I want to have it be a little walkway to where you can walk into the middle where the little well is, and then off to either side from there. This is very reminiscent, I feel, of Papagayu's layout where you could go in all different directions from any point. So I did want there to be a little walkway over to this side. I'm not sure what's going to be off to this area, probably the little knitting circle, maybe with Eunice's house over there. Eunice is quickly becoming one of my favorite villagers on this island. She's adorable. I feel like there are some normals that really just like feel like a normal villager. Like when she talks about books and that kind of thing and calling her mom, I'm like, I can see that, you know? I'm looking at you, Jambet. You should have been a snooty. And we are getting pretty close to the end here, just adding in some final touches with, of course, some dropped items. I have not decorated with like dropped pine cones and mushrooms since Okanda, I think, which is kind of crazy, but I'm loving it. I feel like it's such a fall detail that you can add onto any fall island, and it just automatically elevates it a little bit. I don't know if this island will end up being 3 stars, but I probably will use some Lily of the Valley just because I think that that's a perfect flower for this island too. I did accidentally eat a mushroom, but that's just par for the course if you're decorating with mushrooms, I think. And once I had decorated with a few more little details, I did time travel to stunt one singular tree in this build. So let's go forward a little bit and stunt just this one little tree. I feel like if it was full size, when it was full sized, you couldn't really see the pathway behind it. So I just needed this one to be a little shorter. And here we have the entrance as it was after my first session of building. I did go back in and make a couple more adjustments, and here everyone is the final version of the entrance for Granola, my retirement forest island. I am super happy with how it turned out, and I also had my sister by for a couple little nursey shots at nighttime so you can see what this build looks like at night. I hope you enjoyed today's build, everybody. I certainly did, and it's been a long time since we did a voiceover, so that was fun too. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everybody!